In 2017, a suicide bomber killed 22 people at her concert.
3 months later, she was engaged to a man who had made jokes about the attack.
4 months after the engagement, her ex-boyfriend was dead from a drug overdose.
And 6 months after that, she released the biggest comeback song of the decade.
That is Ariana Grande, and that is just one chapter of her story.
Because the version of Ariana Grande that most people know, the ponytail, the whistle notes, the thank you next, is a carefully constructed survival mechanism.
Today, we are going to talk about what she was surviving.
Ariana Grande grew up in Boca Raton, Florida, a wealthy suburb, a comfortable life. She started performing almost before she could walk.
Theater at 8 years old, a Broadway musical at 15, Nickelodeon at 16.
And here's the first thing most people get wrong about her. The Nickelodeon years were not just a fun stepping stone. They were a machine, and she was the product.
Cat Valentine in Victorious, and then Sam and Cat, the bubbly, ditzy redhead who spoke in a high-pitched voice and made people laugh.
But behind the scenes, there were rules, strict, controlling rules, about how she looked, how she sounded, what she wore, what she said in public.
And Ariana, who had always wanted to be a serious musician, was trapped inside a character that had nothing to do with who she actually was.
She's talked about this in interviews, about feeling controlled, about not being allowed to express herself, about the psychological cost of performing a version of yourself that is entirely fake.
And then, in 2013, she escaped. Sort of.
Her debut album, Yours Truly, came out and it was immediately clear that the real Ariana Grande had nothing to do with Cat Valentine.
The voice was extraordinary. A 4-octave range, whistle notes that most trained singers cannot physically produce, emotional control that made grown adults cry in their cars.
And the world noticed. But the world also immediately had opinions about everything else.
Too sexy, not sexy enough. Too childish, too grown up, too arrogant, too quiet.
And this is where the Ariana Grande story becomes genuinely complicated, because she made some real mistakes along the way.
In 2015, there was Donut Gate. Surveillance footage from a bakery showed her licking donuts that were on display and whispering that she hated America.
It sounds ridiculous, but the reaction was serious. She lost brand deals, she was dropped from a White House performance, and she issued one of the most awkward apologies in celebrity history.
She said that she was disappointed in herself, that she had issues with the food industry and processed food, that she spoke out of turn.
Nobody bought it, and the image of a privileged pop star licking strangers' food and hating the country that made her famous stuck.
Then came the cultural appropriation accusations. Over several years, Ariana had gradually changed her appearance, darker skin, different hair, a speaking style that many people described as adopting Black vernacular English.
Her ex Pete Davidson actually addressed this in his Netflix special. He said his career would be over if he had done what she did. The internet largely agreed with him.
Her response was essentially silence, which made things worse.
And then 2017 happened, and everything else became secondary.
May 22nd, Manchester Arena, the Dangerous Woman Tour. 22,000 fans. The concert ends, people are leaving.
And a suicide bomber detonates an explosive in the foyer.
22 people killed, hundreds injured, many of them children.
Ariana was backstage. She was not physically hurt, but she heard it, and she knew immediately what had happened.
She issued a statement. She paid for the funerals of the victims. She organized the One Love Manchester concert within 2 weeks. She raised over $13 million for the victims' families.
And she kept going, because stopping felt like letting the attack win.
But privately, she was breaking. She has talked openly about the PTSD, the nightmares, the inability to be in crowds, the anxiety that followed her everywhere.
She shared a brain scan on social media showing the physical damage that trauma had done to her brain, not for sympathy, as documentation.
And into all of that darkness, Pete Davidson walked in.
They met. They started dating. Within 3 weeks, they were engaged.
The internet loved it. The tattoos, the public declarations, the energy of two chaotic people finding each other.
But here's the detail that a lot of people forget. Before they started dating, Davidson had made a joke about the Manchester bombing during a stand-up set.
He said, and this is a real quote, Britney Spears did not have a terrorist attack at her concert.
The mother of a 15-year-old girl who died in Manchester called it disgusting. She said she wanted a public apology.
When fans asked Ariana why she was with someone who had joked about the worst night of her life, she said she found it conflicting, that Davidson uses comedy to help people deal with how terrible the world is.
She also said she did not find it funny.
4 months after the engagement, Mac Miller died.
Her ex-boyfriend, someone she had known since she was a teenager, he died of a drug overdose. He was 26 years old.
And Ariana had to grieve publicly, while still engaged, while still dealing with the Manchester PTSD, while still performing.
The engagement ended 2 months later. She described it afterward as an amazing distraction. She said she loved him and didn't know him.
And then she went into the studio and made Thank You Next.
A song that named her exes, thanked them for what they taught her, and declared that she was her own person.
It became one of the biggest songs of the decade, not because it was revenge, but because it was honest.
She had taken the worst 2 years of her life and turned them into something that made millions of people feel less alone.
But the story doesn't end there, because in 2023, a new controversy arrived, and this one hit differently.
While filming Wicked, Ariana Grande began a relationship with her co-star Ethan Slater.
The problem was that both of them were in committed relationships when filming began.
Ariana had a husband, Dalton Gomez. Ethan had a wife, Lily J., who had just given birth to their child while recovering from a life-threatening pregnancy complication.
The divorces followed, the relationship became public, and Lily J. wrote an essay in The Cut about what happened.
She said one thing that the entire internet quoted: Ariana is the story, not a girl's girl.
The timing of everything meant that Ariana was promoting Wicked, a film literally about female friendship and solidarity, while being publicly accused of betraying another woman at the worst moment of her life.
And the film was incredible. She was incredible in it. The reviews praised her performance. The box office was massive.
None of that made the Ethan Slater situation go away.
So here's the question that this story leaves us with.
Is Ariana Grande someone you respect for surviving everything she has been through? Or do you think the accountability she has avoided matters more than the talent?
Leave your answer in the comments, because this is exactly the kind of conversation this podcast exists for.
Subscribe to the channel. Every week we tell the real stories in real English. No textbooks, no grammar drills, just stories worth talking about.
See you next episode.